This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
There it is. Hey, everybody. It is the After Party Live. Am I getting everything right? Transitioning between one show and the next sometimes not so easy. The music sounds really loud. Thank you for being here on a Friday. Tim Sika coming in with his movie reviews at the movies with Tim Sika is on the way. And so many nice people coming through, contributing to this show. I just have some people to thank, and so please bear with me as I mention some names here. Wes with another $5 contribution off the top of the show. Thank you, Wes. Thank you for your contributions to this show. Wes contributing yesterday as well. Other recent contributions include Amy P., Meredith, James S., thank you for your monthly PayPal contributions, or as in Wes's case, nearly daily. I really appreciate it very much. The PayPal contributions are what keeps this show rolling, so they are very appreciated. Please find the PayPal information in the About tab here on YouTube, and every day it's at the bottom of the show description as well if you're looking for the info. And thank you very much. Also, thank you to everyone who has contributed to Teacher Lori as we try to help her get the funds together for a surgery for her cat. So I just want to take a moment to just thank everyone who is able to contribute and who has done so. Huge thank you. Please, I don't have the link to that, Teacher Lori, on me. So if you could post it in the chat, which is what I would do myself if I could, I would appreciate it. Just kind of throw the link up there for anyone who's interested. Thank you for doing that. I don't have a producer on the show, so I'm gonna ask you to do it for me. Thank you for posting that link, and I will try to put it in the show description after the show as well, so that it is there for anyone who wants it. Okay. If you haven't clicked subscribe, please do. And if you haven't clicked the like button, I would appreciate that as well. Helps grow the show. Let's jump into these stories before we welcome Tim Sika to the show. YouTube is removing posts referencing the fundraiser. Oh, okay. I'll make sure that I put it in the show description after the show, so that the link will be in the show description at the bottom. So I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, maybe they don't like anything where they don't get a cut of the money. That might happen. So, and thank you, Rhonda, for sharing it as well. Sometimes if we can't contribute, just sharing it around helps. So huge thank you for that. Let's go to the UK, to a secret crown in an old theater that holds a mystery. It's made of plaster, this crown, and it's in this arch, this old arch in a theater that is almost 120 years old. And there was renovation work being done. And so there were some people around and taking pictures and such. This is in Scotland, in this theater that is almost 120 years old. It's called the King's Theatre. It's in Edinburgh. And this photographer, Mike Hume, was on some scaffolding about 40 feet above the stage. And from that vantage point, had a close-up of this red and gold crown that you can see on the screen. As part, again, the crown is the centerpiece of something called the proscenium arch, which is over the stage. So he's up there and he's looking at this plaster cast of the crown, and he sees there's kind of a gap behind it. And he thinks, hey, wonder if there's anything back there. There's a little gap behind it. So he sticks his hole right in his hole. He sticks his hand right in the hole. And he feels something in there. He said it's an impulse any history nerd can understand completely. He said it was like a scene out of Indiana Jones. It was a little damp. There was all this crumbly plaster and stuff in there. But he said, then my hand stumbled on this solid object and I pulled out a glass bottle. There's the glass bottle. an old glass bottle sealed with a gob of plaster. Inside the glass bottle, you can see, is a rolled up piece of paper with some inky writing on it. He said he could see the handwritten year 1906 on the piece of paper. That was, by the way, the year the theater opened. This happened during this large scale renovation of the King's Theater. The auditorium they call a space of operatic magnificence, a glorious extravaganza of lush Viennese Baroque. And it has all these three-dimensional plaster works all over the place depicting scrolls, cornucopias, and this famed crown. So how to open this bottle? It turns out to be difficult. So Mr. Hume takes it to bottle experts at the Scottish Conservation Studio. They removed the bottle's plaster seal on top, but they couldn't get the scroll out without hurting it. So they had to call in a glass technician to very lightly make a cut mark on the bottom of the bottle. And she cut open the bottle and retrieved the scroll, which had been glued together with age. What did they find on the scroll? It was a list of names. It was the man who owned the theater. It was all the people who worked to build the theater back in 1906, draftsmen, architects, plasterers, apprentices. William Stewart Cruikshank, who owned the building that the company made into the theater. The architects' names were on there. The father and son plastering team on there. The people working on the site who were very proud of what they built. Pride and ownership in this note. All this time. They say this is a total fluke find as well. Now they're giving it its due. They've got the plaster, they've got the bottle, and they've got the note, and it is in a special place on display in the lobby, showcased at the King's Theatre in Edinburgh. The theater folks now say, when the builders of the King's Theatre placed this special trinket at the very center of it, in the middle of this crown, they intended to honor the local people who built the theater. They say it's astonishing to think that this time capsule of history has been hidden in plain sight for nearly 120 years, silently bearing witness to the countless famous faces and Edinburgh community performers that have graced the stage of the Kings. So that is the story of what has been sitting there behind the plaster crown for 120 years. It is time. Oh, yes, it is time at the movies with Tim Sika once again on a Friday. And welcome in, Tim Sika.
Hi. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Tim. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. How's the week going for you?
Pretty good. Pretty busy as usual. You know how that goes.
Yes, I do know how that goes. But somehow, some way, Tim Sika, you have managed to watch all of these movies, and you've done it for us so that we don't have to watch the bad ones, and that maybe we'll find something that interests us. We just talked to Michael Snyder on the Mark Thompson show about Snow White, and it's another one of these live action movies. So I'm quite interested to see what you thought of this movie.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what Michael thought too. You can tell me maybe when I'm done. But you know what? I want to say, God, first of all, do I have to review this movie? But I want to say, this has got to stop, Disney Company. This obsession and non-creative practice they have of making live action revisions of their classic animation library. And I think this latest entry in the we have absolutely no new ideas left in our brains live action remakes department is, in my opinion, it's the most sacrilegious of them all. Oh. It's certainly the most superfluous and pointless and forgettable of all of the Disney company's live action remakes, in my opinion. And all I kept thinking while this movie hobbled on, I was going, why? I mean, what was it that made the filmmakers? Mark Webb is the director. He's also the director of 500 Days of Summer, which was a very good movie, and a couple of the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. What was it that made these folks think they were adding to or improving upon what is in essence one of the all-time great and classic animated movies and all-time great classic motion pictures? Innovative and influential to this day, the 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And why do these filmmakers and studio heads feel they need to correct things all the time, like minority representation, gender politics, and other seemingly countless things so many people these days appear to be offended by? I'm kind of tired of it. If you compare this Snow White with the 1937 genius masterpiece that is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and you watch it and you go, well, first of all, there's absolutely no comparison. These two films shouldn't even be compared. But when you do inevitably compare them, this new Snow White, to me, comes across as a joke, or like a cash grab, an insulting rape of the original, and it's pure cinematic laziness, in my opinion, in terms of creativity. There's nothing new here, and most frustratingly, the fact that it goes out of its way to be corrective is annoying to me. It's and on top of all that, just as a singular movie, forget the comparisons, just as a singular movie, at best, it's flat. And the hype around this movie with the studio, the studio newspapers and stuff, that it's a masterpiece and it's like the best, it's just pure bull, in my opinion. Yes, it incorporates some of the original songs of the original, some of the great songs, but in most cases, when they do that, they merely pay them lip service, while in other cases they overplay them. And anyway, it's a nice looking movie, I suppose. Some of the new songs are okay. Rachel Zegler is appealing in the title role, but none of this in the end compensates for the fact that nobody will be talking about this obscenely expensively made movie. I think it costs like $275 million. Nobody's going to be thinking of it or talking about it in 2 weeks. Whereas the original, 88 years after its initial release, is still being considered one of the great films of all time. So I say just skip Snow White. If you can forget that it's even out there, all's the better. Moving on.
So don't you think, though, that, and this is, I'll be called woke for this. And I will admit, and I told Michael Snyder this as well, I did really like the Beauty and the Beast live action remake. I thought that was wonderful. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a bummer that this one doesn't, that you say it's flat and it doesn't hold up. But do you think there's something to updating characters that maybe didn't stand the test of time, that women that needed to be rescued, or, I
think that in and of itself is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But make an original movie about that kind of thing. Do something else. I don't know. I mean, where's this headed? I mean, really, I'm trying to be objective about the movie, and it does do that, but it also wants to have its cake and eat it too. But what? I mean, they're doing this thing where they write new songs, but yet they want to include some of the original songs, which could also be interpreted as like out of date. And I mean, in and of itself, I think it's a good idea, but not the way they're doing it. See, I didn't care for Beauty and the Beast at all. I thought what was the lead actress? What was her name? Emma
Stone?
Emma Watson.
It was Hermione.
Right. Who played Hermione in Harry Potter? I thought she looked as though she didn't even know where she was within the frame, and she probably didn't because it was all CGI. I mean, you know what? I just happen to like look at movies in a really kind of picky, kind of critical way. So I had a problem with that. I thought it was, and again, I think of the original animated film, which is to me a classic. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful film. It's got a great score. It's gorgeous and beautiful and all the things that the live action movie wasn't. And when they try to copy it, and it's so obvious that they're copying it, it's like, why? I mean, why don't you spend $250 million and reissue the original one? It wouldn't even cost you a tenth of that, and pump that up and spend the money. To me, it's a waste of money when they do it this way. But anyway, moving on.
Yvonne says, tell it like you see it, Tim. I'd rather watch other more creative, semi-original. Is anything new and exciting, she said. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah.
I mean, oh God, I no more vitriol. That's the last of my vitriol for the week.
Rhonda says, I agree, Tim. Hate these remakes. Give me the originals.
Thank you. There you go. Look at okay. What else is here? Yeah,
John says didn't like the live action Beauty and the Beast either. I liked it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're probably a lot more forgiving.
Louise says, wow, so much worse of a review than Michael Snyder's. Michael Snyder said it was meh. He said he didn't love it and he didn't hate it. It lied somewhere in between, in the middle, which is kind of what you said about in 2 weeks no one will really remember it, right?
No, and they spend they're doing this thing in Hollywood where you would think that with movies like after like a movie like American Fiction, right? They're still spending these exorbitant amounts of money, and then they're complaining that they're only breaking even, or they're not making $2 billion or $3 billion. I couldn't believe the price tag on this movie when I researched it. I think it was somewhere between $250 and $275 million they spent on making this movie, and I don't know, there's something about, you can be a little more subtle, I think, when you want to update something. To me, this movie felt finger wagging, like, I don't know. I'm not, but I have no objectivity about it at all. I've just seen too many of these movies and I'm just sick of them. Luis
calls it cinematic karaoke.
Cinematic what? Oh, karaoke.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Cinematic karaoke. That's great. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move to the next movie on the Tim Sika list. And this is called The Assessment.
Yeah. This is a futuristic science fiction thriller, right? That depicts a society where a couple who wants to conceive, to have a baby, they have to pass this government-controlled and sponsored test in order to prove their suitability for parenthood. And then once they pass this test, they're required by law to endure, it's really enduring, this 7-day live-in visit from a facilitator known as the assessor, who puts them through the ringer in all kinds of imaginable and unimaginable situations, where at the end they will either get a passing grade, right, or they'll fail, and then they'll be forbidden by law to have a child. So that's an intriguing and compelling premise, I should think.
I think so too.
Yeah, there's really good acting in this movie by Elizabeth Olsen, who's at the bottom of the poster there on the right, and Himesh Patel is the couple that want to have a baby, and Alicia Vikander plays the assessor. She's on the top. Boy, she's quite a piece of work, and it's a creepy movie. This movie is, which culminates in one of the creepiest movie scenes of the year between the assessor and the wannabe dad, which I'm not even going to talk about, but it's just something for people to watch for. And the movie definitely makes a statement, an anti-fascist one, which, will resonate with audiences who are paying attention to what is politically happening in our country right now. But I'm torn with this movie a bit. While it presents some interesting ideas, a lot of the times it comes across to me like a very dumb movie that thinks it's really smart, or a very superficial movie that thinks it's deep. I don't think it goes beyond the surface of the ideas that it wants you to ponder. It's a bit repetitive. You can also see where it's all going, but on balance, I'm going to recommend it because the way in which it mixes all of its elements together, all the elements I've been talking about, does kind of result in this overall different, kind of interesting kind of movie-going experience. It's like when it was all over, I'm going, I'm not sure, but I can't think of another movie that I've ever seen that reminded me of this one. So it had that going for it. And it does, it does present a lot of interesting ideas, even though I don't think they go past the surface. They don't go very deep, but maybe that's not what the filmmakers intended. Maybe they just wanted to present these ideas for you to think about, what if, and, what would it be like, kind of thing. So it succeeds on that level. And so, yeah, like on balance, I'm going to recommend it because it's unusual. It's different.
I'm fascinated by the premise of this movie.
Yeah. And it's playing in theaters. By the way, all these movies are playing in theaters. I think that we're going to talk about this week. So
let's go to Young Hearts.
Yeah, this is a coming-of-age drama, and it's in German, French, and Dutch with English subtitles. And it tells the story of a 14-year-old boy who falls in love with his new neighbor, a boy of the same age. So it's a coming-of-age sexual awakening tale of self-discovery. It's obviously an LGBTQIA plus movie, but I think general audiences outside of Middle America, anyway, will be able to relate to what is, in essence, a universally relatable story, provided they give themselves over to it and develop a rooting interest in the characters. The boys in this movie are really sweet, and the actors who play them, they're both Belgian teen actors, Luc Goosens and Marius de Sager, I think. They're in the poster there. They're both excellent. They both deliver very moving performances. The family dynamics and the reactionary dynamics of the family are realistically portrayed. The emotions the film and its screenplay evoke are pure and true. Some personal caveats I had, even though these are teenagers, the actors look more like 10, 11, or 12 as opposed to being 14 or 15, which are the ages of the characters they play. So I didn't know what I thought about that. The story beats are kind of familiar ones. The romanticizing of sex is love and love is sex is conventionally portrayed. It's a bit neat and tidy, but in the end, it's very touching. And it's really kind of critic proof. I mean, that's the worst I can say about it. It's the flip side, Kim, of another movie we talked about last year called Close, which was a very sad version of this. While this one is more uplifting, it's sweeter, and it's very acknowledging of a situation which all teenage boys and girls go through. So it's kind of like this, paean to innocence and sexual discovery and teen angst and confusion. It's ultimately in the end, I have to, judge it as a very good movie and recommendable. Yeah.
Okay. Recommend Teen Hearts. Would you say it's like a coming of age story and the genders don't matter? Or do you think the genders are highlighted, like the gayness of the movie is highlighted? Or could it be you substitute in, opposite genders and it would be the same coming of age story?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it just so happens that these are two boys and they don't, it's, you do kind of, that's a really good question. You don't kind of notice that. No, it's just kind of matter of fact. So that's also a plus about the movie. Yeah.
It makes me think that I don't know if you think it's a good movie for kids, but it makes me want to see this movie or show it to young people just for the fact that it doesn't make a big deal out of being gay. Like it's just like any other thing.
Yeah. And I would say, depending on the kid, I mean, I wouldn't have any trouble, recommending this movie. I would like to watch it with them.
Yeah.
But no, it's very tastefully done. I mean, it's really, it's tasteful. It's sweet. And the emotions are really, really genuine. I mean, it's a very good movie.
Okay,
very good movie. Yeah.
Young Hearts. Let's move to this one. And I don't know if I'm saying it right. Is it ephus?
Yes, ephus. Now, do you know what an ephus is, Kim?
I don't. I have no idea.
Well, I didn't know what an ephus was until I saw this picture, but I think I know what an ephus is now. Okay, it's a baseball term for a kind of curveball. Oh, God, I hope I get this right. It's a baseball term for a kind of curveball that is pitched unnaturally slow, that it confuses the batter as the ball moves towards him, where the batter winds up swinging either too early or too late. And if the pitcher throws the ball right, and this has something to do with where the pitcher places his elbow and his hips, which actually makes the batter think the pitcher is going to throw hard. If the pitcher throws the ball right, it looks like the ball stops in midair, which does a mind game number on the batter and throws him off. In other words, it's a trick pitch, basically. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a trick pitch in baseball. And it was interesting. The press notes that the studio provided went into this history of this, when this pitch was used, how it came to be. Really fascinating stuff. So, if folks are interested, they can Google that. But so that's what an eephus is. And what the movie titled eephus is, well, for one, it's really good, but it also may very well be, in my opinion, certainly it's the most distinctive baseball movie ever made, but it also may be the best. Certainly for me, it was the most resonant, and for a number of reasons, but mostly because, well, first the plot. It's about these two amateur recreational baseball teams made up of mostly middle-aged and older men who've played their baseball on this particular baseball field for as long as they can remember. However, the field is going to be raised to make way for a new school. So this is the team's last game. Right? This is the last time they're going to play on this field. They're probably not going to do the game anymore because they don't have anywhere to play. And this is a classic hangout movie, which for all intents and purposes, a hangout movie is where the narrative takes a back seat to just spending a chunk of the runtime of the movie portraying a particular ensemble of characters, just hanging out. Mm-hmm. I guess another example of a classic hangout movie would be The Big Chill, Slacker, Dazed and Confused, mm-hmm. Before Sunrise. Richard Linklater is the contemporary king of the hangout movie. Movies like The Big Lebowski, those kind of movies. And what this movie does, and the main reason I think it's so resonant and distinctive in the cinematic canon of baseball movies, is that, and I'm paraphrasing the director here, Carson Lund, is that the film is less about the particulars of baseball as a game and more about the possibilities that are opened up by the game, mm-hmm. like escape and camaraderie and this serene sense of time passing. So it's about change, and it's about loss, and it's about coping with death, wrapped up in this rubric of the sport of baseball. Wow. Very, very unique. It's quite remarkable. It takes a bit of getting used to in its rhythms, because its actual rhythms are like those of the rhythms of baseball itself. Slow, kind of zen-like. A lot of people think baseball is boring because not a whole lot happens in real time, but when it does happen, one of the characters says, like baseball, you're looking around for something to happen when you're either playing or watching baseball, then poof, the game is over. But anyway, it's a wonderful film. It's one of the best of the year so far. It's the closest film to depict the actual playing of a game through identification with its characters than any other baseball film I have ever seen. And that's remarkable to me. It's a very unique movie and very moving and just very interesting. I loved it just because it came out of the blue, and I'm going, wow. So they're still making original movies. People are still making these good movies, mm-hmm. like eephus. And I learned what an eephus was. Now I can impress people. I'm not a real big sports guy. I play baseball. I love baseball. But now when I'm, at a cocktail party, I can talk about eephus and impress people. Yeah.
Did I hear you at the beginning of this review call this the best baseball movie ever made?
I would say if it's not, yes, I did say that, mm-hmm. but I would say if it's not, it's certainly, in my opinion, it's in my opinion, yeah, it's the best movie ever made. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's a lot, because you have things like, oh God, what is that? I like Long, Fast, Deep Kisses. I forget what movie that was.
Bull Durham?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Movies like that, the Tom Hanks and Madonna movie.
Oh yeah.
These are great baseball movies, and you say this rivals those or surpasses.
Well, yeah, I think it's surpassed. I've heard too or read somewhere where the movie
League of Their Own. Sorry.
League of Their Own, mm-hmm. where this movie eephus it premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. So it may not be the best baseball film for people who are particularly fond of those baseball movies, which were all good. I mean, Bull Durham and League of Their Own. Those are terrific movies, but they're different kinds of. This just goes deeper in a very kind of satisfying way. Like I say, it takes a while to get into the rhythm. So for the first 20 minutes, I'm going, okay, what is this? Where, this movie isn't about anything.
Yeah.
But at some point it clicks and you go, okay, now once you get to learn the characters, you become familiar with them. You can identify them on screen, and when they show them, you kind of know what their deal is. Then it just gels in this kind of magical way. And for that reason, I think it's the best baseball movie. Although, it's like comparing apples and oranges. I mean, Bull Durham is the two that you mentioned are terrific too. So.
I'll throw Field of Dreams in there as well.
Oh, I love that movie.
I know, that was really good.
See, now I don't know if I should have said that.
Okay.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. Oh God, what a great film. Yeah. If we build it,
if we build it, they will come.
If we build it, they will come. Yeah. Yeah.
Magazine Dreams. This fellow has a rather nice physique.
Yes, he does. Magazine Dreams. Okay. Oh man, this movie is intense. This, just for some context, Kim, and background, this movie debuted over 2 years ago at Sundance to critical acclaim, but it was delayed and then finally dropped by its distributor, Fox Searchlight Pictures, because its star, Jonathan Majors, he of the great physique in the poster, was convicted on assault and harassment allegations stemming from a domestic dispute which involved a former girlfriend. He was also dropped from Marvel. He played the villain in Avengers Doomsday and was slated to appear in 2 more Avengers movies, but he's basically been canceled. Yeah. And it's a shame, because if he wasn't canceled, he would definitely be in this year's Oscar conversation, because his performance in this movie as this damaged, ridden with anger issues, socially awkward, struggling with personal demons, amateur bodybuilder is just electrifying and shattering and scary and multidimensional, brilliant. This movie is worth seeing for the performance alone. I mean, I don't know if people will want to go see the movie now because of the guy's rep, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the performance is outstanding in every way. And the movie, while being borderline excruciating, manages to ride this fine line between being just that while simultaneously eliciting empathy and sympathy for this very sad character who just can't seem to get a break. And that's a very hard thing to achieve in a movie this intense. Movie this intense, you want to go after an hour, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. But somehow the director manages to convey, and the actor through the performance, you kind of feel sorry for this guy. It's like anyway, it's complicated, but the ending practically embraces nihilism, but it also boasts just the proper degree of ambiguity to where you're really not sure what's coming next or where this character is headed. In other words, you're haunted in the best possible way. So beware. And wow, Magazine Dreams, if you're up for it, it's one hell of a intense portrait of, obsession, unresolved trauma, pain, anguish, as you'll probably ever see this year or any year for that matter. It's an incredible movie. It's just, it's a very strong and powerful ride to go on. It may not be for everybody, but it's a work of art, this movie, and his performance is unbelievable. I'm thinking maybe he's so good because, maybe a lot of that is I'm speculating, is the way he is in real life. Like, right. Because he plays this character that's just ready to friggin' explode any second. I mean, and it
has a lot to tap into, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would think so. Yeah, but anyway, that's Magazine Dreams. It's a terrific movie. But pick your poison.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tim's classic movie recommendation of the week this week is Moulin
That's
Rouge.
it. Now this is
Wild, wicked, wonderful Paris, all her loves, ladies, and
yeah,
lusty legends.
yes, you can tell
Mhm.
this movie came out in the 50s, right? With that
Mhm.
tagline. This is the original Moulin Rouge, which kind of became subjugated and forgotten when Baz Luhrmann's 2001 over nuanced musical kind of overtook it in the public consciousness. Not that the memory of this movie was particularly strong in the minds of a lot of movie fans, but I never forgot this movie. I saw it on TV as a child. The 1952 Technicolor Moulin Rouge. It's directed by John Huston. It's a fictionalized biography of the great French impressionistic painter Henri de Toulouse-Lautrec. Yeah. Oh, that's a great shot. That's Zsa Zsa Gabor on the right, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and yeah, what a yeah, Lautrec is impressively portrayed by Jose Ferrer, and yeah, this is a classic high drama about creativity and personal anguish and alcoholism. And Lautrec, I'm not sure if he would be considered a dwarf, but when he was 14, he fractured his right and left femur, and the bones failed to heal. So he developed an adult torso while retaining child-sized legs. So
Oh.
he was considered disabled and disfigured in a time which considered that anathema. You know, that the person's disabled, whatever, hide them and, you know, in an attic somewhere, but don't let them go out in public and don't pretend that, you know, they exist. Well, he ignored all that and, you know, visited the Moulin Rouge always and painted what he saw. This is a very vivid, very colorful, and very alive movie, which they don't make anymore. And it opens demonstratively. Oh, I love that scene too. At the Moulin Rouge, which is, you know, the famous Parisian cafe or cabaret, known for its can-can dancers and association with the bohemian art scene of the late 19th century in France. The first 25 minutes of can-can dancing, which open this movie, are so breathtaking and pull you into this movie like nothing else. And they set the stage for the drama to follow. This is authentic can-can dancing, and you can't believe these women can twist and turn and move their bodies in the way that they do. And it's anyway, this is a classic, maybe even a superior, even though it's a fictionalized example of the way Hollywood of the 1950s made biographical pictures. They generally played fast and loose with a lot of the facts of the subject they wanted to dramatize and portray due to the production code and other factors, but especially in this case, remained faithful and, in my opinion, ultimately captured the spirit and the emotional truth of, you know, one of the greatest impressionistic painters. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards in 1952. Best Picture, Actor, Director, Supporting Actress. It won 2 for its color art direction and color costume design. It's one of the most beautiful looking Technicolor movies that you're ever going to see. You just don't see reds like this in movies anymore. They just pop off the screen. And it's also a deeply absorbing drama. It's streaming on Pluto and streaming on Prime. It's amazing how many classic movies are now available on Prime. If you have a yearly subscription, you can watch all these movies free. I rewatched Moulin Rouge, in fact, last night on Prime. And boy, did it ever hold up. 73 years later, it still holds up as a high-class piece of Hollywood cinema. It's my classic movie recommendation of the week.
I'm struck in looking at these pictures.
Yeah.
And you said is it based off of a painting? Because all the pictures from the movie, it looks like they're recreating a painting. It has a style of a painting.
Yeah. Well, it won the Academy. What you just talked about is what used to be called art direction, and it won the Academy Award that year for art direction. Which was obviously what the director John Huston wanted to do. These scenes are alternated with actual Lautrec paintings. So Yeah, it was obviously deliberate because it also wanted to evoke, his genius at painting what he painted and what he saw. So yeah, you picked up on that. That's very astute of you.
Well,
Yeah.
and that'll be that's a one-time thing. Moulin Rouge is Tim Sika's classic movie recommendation of the week. Let's go through these again and give the recap. Snow White, hated it. You said, and I quote, "This has got to stop. Making live action revisions of classic animation." You called this one sacrilegious. What was it you said that made people think they could improve upon the classic? You said it comes across as a cash grab and a joke, and it goes out of its way to be corrective. As a movie, you called it flat. You said it's nice looking, but no one's going to be talking about this in 2 weeks. Skip. No way.
Boy, skip what it. A crabby critic. My God.
He said skip it. I will skip it based on your recommendation alone. The assessment. You said it's an interesting idea. You said great acting, but a really creepy movie. You recommended it, even though it's repetitive, you liked the interesting experience of this movie.
Yes.
As for young hearts, you said the boys that star in this coming of age movie are sweet and great acting. They look young. You said this movie is very touching. You recommend Young Hearts. Ephus, you called this the best baseball movie ever made. You said this is life wrapped in the sport of baseball. Once you get used to the rhythm of the movie, you called it remarkable, a wonderful film, one of the best of the year, unique and moving. You loved it. Big thumbs up and a recommendation for Ephus from Tim Sika. Magazine Dreams, you really like this movie as well, despite the bad rep of the star. You said it's intense, an electrifying, shattering performance, excruciating, but it makes you feel empathy, which is a trick. You called it an incredible movie. So you said if this is your thing, you're really going to like this one. And again, back to your classic movie rec of the week for Moulin Rouge of 1952. You called it vivid, colorful, and alive. And you said they don't make them like this anymore.
That's just about sums it up. Yes.
Just about does. Absolutely. Yeah. Are we looking forward to anything coming up next week? Anything we should be looking out for on the horizon?
Boy, you know what? As I generally like do one day at a time, I can't think of anything off. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. You know, it's so weird, Kim. It's like it's March. We're going into April already. They're going to already start like thinking about awards season, and it's like, oh man, I wish we could all like take a breather. There's always something to cover. There's a film festival this week. There's another one next week. There's another one after that. Then there's 2 more after that. Yeah, it's rare when we get a breather, but there'll definitely be movies to talk about next week. Awesome. You can guarantee. Yeah.
At the Movies with Tim Sika. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Kim. Talk to you next week. Bye.
That's Tim Sika, everybody. Love it when he comes by the After Party Live, and he gave us a lot to think about this week. Boy, he really didn't like the Snow White movie. And you know what? Neither did Michael Snyder. That's 2 negative reviews, and that's enough for me. No. Vanessa says, and soon the mindless summer blockbusters will come out. Tammy says, thank you, Tim. Tim with a thumbs up, lots of hearts for you. And yeah, it looks like Karen says of Moulin Rouge, they tried to fulfill the images shown in his paintings. Those pictures look like art, true art, not just a live shot from a movie, but art. Yeah, Karen says Jose Ferrer is great in Moulin Rouge. Even Zsa Zsa is good, she says. Yeah, and talking about I Love Tim from the Mark Thompson Show. Nice. Vanessa says a lot of good actors are damaged people, and we're talking about the actor of what the movie was, the Magazine Dreams. Yeah, being able to tap into real life experiences. Maybe someone who's damaged playing such a damaged character, it's a lot easier for them. I don't know. Is it? Are you trolling me? Is that Mark Thompson trolling me? I don't know. The Mark Thompson Show says, while many people remember the phrase, if you build it, they will come, the actual line in the movie is, if you build it, he will come. So noted. Thank you very much. Better than Bull Durham, says John Watson. Yeah, Tim Sika said better than Bull Durham. So there you go. Thank you, Tim, from Eileen. So wonderful. Now we know what we're going forward to do, to what movies and what will be on our TV screens this weekend. Again, thank you, Tim Sika, for coming by the show. All right, let's jump back into another one of these stories, because I think I can throw one more in before we have to go. And have you ever had this ringing in your ear? It's kind of a common medical problem. And now scientists are thinking that it might be related to your diet, that if you change your diet, it could reduce the risk of ringing in the ear, also called tinnitus, that lowering the volumes on earbuds, wearing earplugs, all known to reduce the effect of tinnitus or a ringing in the ear. But now scientists say if you eat more fruit and fiber, you drink milk and coffee, it could stave off that persistent buzzing or ringing that drives people absolutely crazy. That dietary changes appear to reduce your risk of developing tinnitus. This, according to researchers who published a report in the BMJ, they say diet-based strategies for tinnitus prevention could play a significant role in managing this ringing in the ears. This, according to researchers at the Chengdu University of Traditional Chinese Medicine in China. Existing evidence, they write, suggests that consuming fruit, dietary fiber, caffeine, and dairy may be associated with a reduced incidence of tinnitus. 1 out of every 6 adults, or 14% of us, has had this. The exposure to loud noise, a key risk in this disease. For the new evidence and the new research they did, they looked at data from 8 previous studies that looked at links between tinnitus and diet. It involved more than 300,000 people. And here's what they found. Increased consumption of fruits lowered the risk by 35%. Dairy lowered the risk by 17%. Caffeine lowered the risk by 10%. And fiber lowered the risk by 9%. And they think it has to do with body-specific nutrients that protect hearing health. The thought is that caffeine might promote the release of hormones that protect nerves related to hearing. Fruit and fiber might keep blood sugar levels and where they need to be and prevent potentially damaging inflammation as well. The primary underlying mechanisms may involve the protective effects of these diets on blood vessels and nerves, as well as their anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties as well. So they say, look at these findings with caution, because, they're still looking at evidence and they didn't have a lot to go on, but that's what they're thinking. So eating tons of fruit and maybe caffeine might help you with the ringing in the ears if that is something that you are suffering from. I do want to talk about, can we talk about smelly statues? Did you know that ancient Roman and Greek statues, of course, were beautiful, but they also smelled nice? Yeah, they smelled good. This is out of a study in the Oxford Journal of Archaeology. This archaeologist named Cecile Bronze, who works as a curator at the Glyptotek Art Museum in Copenhagen, says these Greco-Roman statues were often perfumed with enticing scents. They made them smell like rose, olive oil, or beeswax, and that the fragrances weren't only decorative, but they were symbolic in nature, and they were meant to enhance the religious and the cultural significance of these sculptures. In some instances, according to archaeologists, the scents were applied in ways that helped preserve the statues as well. They know this because Bronze, the archaeologist, and specialist in these statues, was reading these ancient Greco-Roman texts and saw some references to sweet-smelling statues, and that really caught her interest. And so she decided to go looking for more mentions of smells in relation to statues, and was surprised to find evidence in texts by Cicero, Callimachus, Vitruvius, Pliny the Elder, and Pausanias, among other writers, mentioning anointing statues of Greek and Roman deities, including one depicting Artemis, the Greek goddess of wild animals. And they were perfumed. They were anointed in different ways. In some cases, covered in a mixture of waxes and oils. It was a process called gnosis. In others, they were coated in olive oil as part of a process called chomesis, meant to help protect the sculpture from the elements. And all of the fragrances would have made viewing the statue not only a visual experience, but an olfactory experience as well. So, these statues that we now house in museums are often stark white, don't have colorful decorations, but the archaeologist says that was not always the case. That by the time people in Italy began excavating these ancient artworks during the Renaissance, vibrant pigments had mostly faded away, and any color that managed to survive quickly disappeared once the statues were exposed to the air and the sunlight, and that there were cleaning procedures that also erased traces of color. So, the artists that came after took their cues from these seemingly unpainted marbles. So artists like Michelangelo left their sculptures in the Renaissance unadorned. Interesting, right? That some of these ancient statues could have been colorful and smelly as well. Fascinating. They embraced polychromy. Brightly hued paints and embellishments would have created the illusion that the statues were actually alive, and the scents would have added to that illusion. So, a cult statue of a god or goddess with such decoration placed in a temple would have given the visitor to the temple the impression that this divinity was somehow present in the temple. Fascinating, and not really what we thought we knew about these ancient pieces of art. I think I have time for one more story. And since, oh, I could do, well, I'll do this one. This is a Buddha statue that has been uncovered. We already found the head. Now we found the body too. This is the torso of a rare Buddha statue about 100 years after humans found the head of this Buddha. Now comes the torso. This sculpture is about 800 years old. The torso and the head were discovered about 160 feet away from each other at this Ta Prohm temple in Cambodia. The head of the statue, found 100 years ago, was kept in the collection of the National Museum of Cambodia, but its body was still missing until last month. Archaeologists at Cambodia's sprawling Angkor temple complex found this well-preserved torso section of the statue 160 feet from where the head was found in 1927, and they do think that these two are a match. Here's the torso, and here's the rendering of the head fitting on the torso. They say it was a big surprise when they found the sculpture, because all they found so far were small pieces. And so they just kept digging. It was found, this torso, alongside 29 other related fragments at Ta Prohm Temple, which was the capital of the Khmer Empire between the 9th and 15th centuries. In the 12th century, it was at its peak. The Buddhist temple was dedicated to the mother of one of the leaders there. It was also, by the way, this temple used as the Tomb Raider temple in the Angelina Jolie movie Lara Croft Tomb Raiders. In its decay with the thick tree trunks and the roots growing through the stony ruins, that's the same temple. The temple, along with the head and torso of the statue, is in the Bayon style of art, dating to the 12th and 13th centuries. And that is when Buddhism became the official state religion of the Khmer Empire. Besides its head and its torso, this statue is missing its feet. No feet yet. They're still looking for the feet. It's also missing its right hand, although they think they might have found a match for the feet in nearby rubble. So they're still working on that. Despite the missing parts of the broken sculpture, it's almost in its original form. Almost. At this point, they're still looking for the right hand. So kind of interesting. Lastly, I do want to mention, and because I did mention Pliny the Elder, I will tell you that today is the big day for the Pliny release. People wait for this every year. This very limited supply of Pliny the Younger. It's a coveted triple IPA released here in the North Bay in California by Russian River Brewing Company. It will be in bottles and on tap starting today, March 21st. It's a 2-week release. Always a line outside the Russian River Brewing Company at their pubs in both Santa Rosa and Windsor. And the release runs through April 3rd. The line starts forming as early as 5 in the morning. So, yeah, it's coveted. Pliny the Younger has been released. And I do want to mention it, and I know Mark mentioned this as well. There's also another beer. It's called We Love LA. And this beer, this LA beer, benefits fire victims in Los Angeles. So for people in Southern California, if you see the We Love LA beer, it is a wildfire relief beer. And they say, spread the word and get it out there so that people know that if you're buying beer anyway, you might as well buy one where some of the proceeds will go to help the people that really need the help. All right. That, my friends, is After Party Live on a Friday. Huge thank you to everyone who contributes to this show. You know what I wanted to tell you guys, and I forgot to mention it. We passed the 1-year anniversary of the After Party Live. Yeah, we did. And this show has been through the ringer, some ups and downs over here on this show, managed to keep it on the air. So I'm really happy about it. 1 year of the After Party Live, and we continue. On the Mark Thompson show for Monday, Gary Dietrich will be in the mix. We'll also have Mr. Wheel coming through the show, who will talk about airlines, I would imagine Mark will ask him about the new Boeing contract for the new fighter jet and other things. So that is at 11 a.m. Monday, the Mark Thompson show. Please meet us back on YouTube for that. And until we meet again, have a really, really great weekend and make it the very best. Bye, everybody.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.
Enjoy it in Hawaii, Finn.